But first, let's go back to Labor's $2 billion cash splash to shift Australia's 4 operational aluminium smelters to renewables. Fair amount of backlash already over concerns that renewables won't be able to provide the reliable baseload necessary to keep our smelters going, not to mention the cruel irony that it's Labor's green policies that's made them costly and less reliable in the first place. Joining me now, Environment Editor for The Australian, Graham Lloyd. Well, Graham, taxpayers, as I made the point at the top of the show, have already been shelling out hundreds of millions of dollars in addition to this $2 billion and another $13 billion out of the Future Made in Australia policy. They've spent hundreds of millions of dollars to subsidise the power bills of these smelters. Now more money today. Any wonder they're frustrated, isn't it?
That's right. Good evening, Peter. Well, this really confirms everything that we've always known about the net zero transition, and that is that big trade exposed industries like aluminium can't afford to stay in Australia unless they're given a public subsidy to do so. Ostensibly, this is a subsidy to reduce their cost of power, but it does nothing about reducing the cost of power overall in the system. In fact, if anything, there's going to be another layer of subsidies given to renewable projects to provide the power to them. So really, it's just a cascading mess, as you've described. And really, it's paying more money to keep something we've already got.
What about the operational engineering issues with renewables and these smelters? When I went to the Portland smelter, I've been to Tomago as well. I mean, they are very hungry in terms of the intensive energy required to heat, metals to the temperatures required. Can they work with renewables?
Well, I think this is where a lot of money is being invested to work out how they can. The energy requirement for them is quite extraordinary. In fact, today I saw the Aluminium Association saying the energy needed to power the aluminium industry was the same as the entire requirement of South Australia and Tasmania. So in the past, it's always been that they need an uninterrupted supply of power because you can't have the metal losing power halfway through the process and freezing in the pot lines. They're now looking at ways to guarantee those powers to do smelts and be able to turn the power requirements down in times when the grid doesn't have it. But this is all adding to the costs of something that used to be a pretty straightforward industrial process, and that's why it's so fraught.
And we need it, of course, to feed into all the other big industry manufacturing here in Australia. We need it for defence sovereignty. I could go on. That's why it matters. It's not just about what we think we use aluminium for in this country. It's all the other things. Talk to me about LNG, because there's talk that we're going to have to start importing LNG as early as next year to deal with gas shortages in Victoria. Now this is nuts. We are one of the world's largest, biggest exporters of LNG around the world, yet we're going to have to import it back at massive cost because we're running short in our own country.
That's right, Peter, and this is the mismatch between where we're producing the gas and where we need it for our own industry. So gas is going out of Gladstone in Queensland, and we have a shortfall in New South Wales and Victoria. It's been mooted for some time that we may have to, if we don't exploit gas reserves in those states, have an import terminal. And the great irony is that the person at the front of the queue to import it is Andrew Forrest, who spends half his life railing against the evils of fossil fuels, and reports today say, look, the only way he's really going to do it is if he gets a government subsidy to bring the gas here and guarantees of supply. So the whole thing is messed up, and it reflects a bigger mess in the gas production and use industry in general.
Oh, you surprised me. Another billionaire wanting a subsidy from the poor old taxpayer. Goodness me, I'll leave it there. Thank you, Graham.